Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to dive into Flask, one of the most popular web frameworks in Python. You are looking to build web applications with Python, you are in the right place. So in this tutorial, we are going to focus on setting up and interacting with the various routes in Flask. I'm going to demonstrate all of those routes using Postman. Uh, Here is what we are going to cover in short. So first of all, I'm going to show how to set up the project. We'll set up a Flask project from the scratch. Second, file structure. I'll show you how to organize your Flask project files for clarity and maintainability. Third, creating a basic Flask. We'll build a simple Flask application and define routes for different HTTP methods. And then last but not least, CRUD operations will implement basic create, read, update, and delete functionalities for managing data into the JSON file. And then we are going to test everything with the Postman. So what I'm going to do here, using Flask, I'm going to create four traditional routes: create, read, update, and delete. Here's how I'm going to maintain the data flow. Data will come from the JSON file, and even if it is writing something, even if it is updating the data, it is going to do it in the JSON format only. I'm going to show each and everything in detail by doing the code part as well. So by the end of this tutorial, you'll have a solid understanding of how to create and interact with Flask routes. So let's get started with setting up our project. Okay, so let's get started. So see what I have done here. I have created one folder in my desktop. It should be just an empty folder. So its name is Cheat Code Flask Tutorial. You can keep whatever you want. So I have the empty folder created over here. So now the question is, what do I need to add? So possibly we're going to add first app.py, which is going to be our main server code. And it is going to handle the run. It is going to handle the running of server. Next, what we want to do, we will have to store all of our routes in a route folder. Okay, so here in this particular case, we just have a small application, right? In this particular case, we just have a small application, so we don't need much files. So, but for example, we are creating an application which is widely expanded over multiple routes and multiple web pages. Then we will need routes folder, and we are going to store all the different routes for different web pages into the separate files, and then we are going to create a blueprints for that. I'm going to show you what blueprints exactly are. We're going to create a blueprints for that, and then eventually we are going to combine them all together into the app.py. So let me create a folder here, and it's going to be routes. For this particular tutorial, I'm just going to show you how the basic functionality works for Flask. I'm going to show you how am I going to retrieve the blog posts from a get route? How am I going to add the blog posts from with the post route? How I am going to update the blog posts with the put, and then delete with obviously delete route. So let's implement each routes one by one, and then we'll see how it would go. Okay, so routes folder is here. We are going to name it blog.py. Okay, blog.py. All right. So first of all, let me just make this app. Let me just make this clear. In my laptop or in my computer, everything has been installed already. Python is installed, Flask is installed, everything is installed. But let me show you how to install the Flask in case if you don't have it. It's just I think it's just a very simple thing. You are just going to do pip install Flask, and then you are going to have all the libraries related to the Flask. So mine is going to say requirements already satisfied because I already have it in my local. So that's how you can do it. Obviously, you can have Python. You must be having Python installed already in your system. But in case if it's not, installed, you can probably download it from the Python's website, or usually I don't download it from Python's website. I just go to the Microsoft Store and I download it from there, because I've figured out that if I download it from the Microsoft Store, uh, I am not having any configuration issues, or I'm not getting any path, uh, environment variables errors or anything like that. So it's up to you. Whatever you want to try, whatever is more convenient to you, you can do that. So yeah, so let's go back to our code. Uh, so let's import everything that we're going to need first. So let's import, uh, so from Flask, we are going to import blueprints. Yeah, that's going to be like this. We're going to import blueprint, request, and JSON API. I'm going to tell you why are we importing JSON and why are we importing blueprints and requests also. Let me just write it down first and then I'll import OS. Okay, so we import the necessary components from the Flask. Blueprint, as I said, blueprint becomes very, very crucial when you're dealing with a large project, or even if you're dealing with some project which has like 4 to 5 web pages. It is very normal to have 4 to 5 web pages, even in the basic website. So you're going to need blueprint very frequently. So blueprints usually helps in organizing the routes. If you'll create the blueprints of each route, then you can probably combine them all together later into the app.py. We'll see what I'm exactly referring to. Uh, that's that. And then request is used to handle incoming requests. Of course, we are going to retrieve some JSON data, and we need something to handle it. We need something to parse those data as well. So request is going to do that. And then JSONify is used to return the JSON responses. It is not necessary that you send the data, you retrieve the data into the JSON format, but it's just a very good practice if you're dealing with HTTP requests, that send the data into the JSON format. In that way, you're going to have everything into the data packet, read it from the server, parse it, and then retrieve that JSON data. So I feel like that could be the great option if you want to do that. So yeah, so import JSON and import OS. Uh, OS, what is OS for? This module helps in interacting with the operating system, particularly for the file operations. So we're going to deal with particularly file operations here. We're going to write into the JSON file. We're going to read from JSON file. We're going to do lots of CRUD operations in the JSON files. So we need to import the OS library from Flask as well. So yeah, now let's go ahead and start coding our thing. All right, so we can name our blueprint as a block PP, and then blueprint, we are going to name it as a block. This is just the route name, and then it's going to be like this. Okay, perfect. So now our blueprint name is block. So let's say I have something else. So have authentication also. I'm not putting it right now, but in the usual website, you're going to have authentication. So I'm going to need authentication blueprint. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create authentication.py in the same routes folder, and then I'm going to create one more blueprint. I'll probably name it authentication BP. And then let's say I have DB blueprint where I'm dealing with all the connections with the database. So I'm going to name it as a DB blueprint. So in that way, I'm going to have multiple files and multiple code blocks. And if I want to organize those into the categories, blueprints can be very, very helpful for that. Okay, so that was about the blueprint. I hope it's clear. Let's go ahead and start coding our, first of all, let's see how we can get the helper functions done. So let's name it load blog post. It's going to be a very simple function. It's going to be a very simple function because going to check if OS path exists, that means if it is there in the folder, if this file is in there, then what you're going to do, you're going to read that file and then you're going to retrieve it from that JSON file. So I am going to write with open blog posts.json, and then let's keep it R because let's keep it in the read mode because we are obviously re retrieving or loading the posts from them, and then json.load file. So as you can see that there is no such thing right now so far created as uh, blog post.json. Let me just go ahead and create it. So into this main root directory, create JSON file. Oh, not in the routes. Just create it into the, yeah. Okay, why is it doing like this? Yeah. So you're going to create a file called blog post.json. And here everything is going to be stored. So see, right now, you're not going to have anything that in your JSON file because you have not done anything so far. So obviously, you're not going to have any blog posts. But as soon as somebody adds a blog post, as soon as somebody deletes a blog post, or as soon as somebody updates a blog post, uh, all the details, everything is going to be logged into this JSON file. So for now, you will just have to make sure that you keep this empty array into the JSON file. If you just leave this empty like this, it's not going to work. So just keep it like this. Okay, perfect. Now let's go back to the code. So now we have to write a helper function which is going to save the blog posts as soon as we write something in it, right? Save the blog posts into the JSON file, I mean. So save blog posts. And again, it's going to see it's not going to check actually because it's just going to uh, open blog dot JSON, and then it is going to be in the W, and you can keep it like this, use as file, and then JSON dot dump posts file indent is equals to 4. Okay, so what does it mean? JSON.dump. JSON.dump means it's going, so whatever we have written into the file, it is actually dumping it. It is writing it and writing that data into that JSON file using this write operation. Uh, and also indent is equals to 4. I will just make sure that it is formatted up to the 4, formatting the JSON with the indentation of 4 spaces. So yeah, that was that. And then now let's go ahead and create our routes. So first of all, let's create the get route. So get route is going to be the easiest route. So first of all, we'll have to write a blueprints name and then this. It's up to you, whatever you want to keep the name of the route. I'm just keeping it posts. And then you have to keep method is equals to get. Sorry, it doesn't, yeah. Okay. And then inside this route, I'm going to have function named as get posts. I don't think if we need any arguments or parameters for that. So post is going to be equal to load blog posts. So if you will see here, this was the load blog post. So as soon as I'm going to put in the URL for get request. It is going to trigger this function, load blog post, and it's going to see, oh, is there anything in the JSON file? If there is, it's going to display it on the screen. And then just return response 200 if it is correct. So it's going to be like this. Okay. Return JSONify 200. Okay. So yeah, it returns the loaded post as a JSON response with an HTTP status code of 200. Okay. Now let's go ahead and create the post route. So post route, I'm just going to copy paste this to just eliminate some amount of work. And then instead of get, I'm just going to write here post. Okay, perfect. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to create one more function, def create post. So now see, def create post. We need to retrieve JSON data sent into the request body. So if I'm submitting any blog post, so let's say there is any web page, I'm writing my blog post in there. So now we have set it up this project in a way that whatever I'm going to write, it is coming into it is going to come into the form of a JSON data packet. So it's up to us, it's our duty to retrieve that JSON data packet and parse it. So how are we going to do that? With just one simple line, and that is going to be data is equals to request dot JSON, get JSON. That's it. So now you have the data that was passed basically. And then you have to see load again, and then you'll have to dump the posts. Sorry, you have to append that into that list of blog posts that we are going to get from load blog post. And then after we are done adding that, we'll have to make sure that we save it. So we are going to call one more helper function, which was save blog posts. And then if this is successful, we are just going to return JSONify 201. JSONify data 201, and 201 generally indicates that this new post has a JSON response with HTTP status code of 201 is being created already. So successfully created, that means it's going to be the status code 201. Perfect. Now let's go ahead and see what can we do with the put route. So with the put route, it is going to be, let me go ahead, route. So see, that is going to be a bit tricky now. So posts, this is the route. And now we are going to need some query parameter, which is we're going to need some query parameter which is going to identify that which particular post we are trying to update. And how are we going to identify that? We are going to identify that using the post ID. So if we will just pass the post ID into our parameters or into our URL, it is going to identify, or it is going to determine which post we're talking about automatically with the help of that post ID. So we will keep like this int post ID, and then methods is going to be put for sure. Perfect. And now let's go ahead and create a function. Okay. So post ID is a placeholder for the post index. Now create a function. We are going to name it update post. And now here's the main question. Are we going to need any parameter? Yes. Yes, we will need some input to determine which post it is, and we are going to name it as a post ID. Perfect. So now function is going to look like this. Now again, we will have to make sure that we are doing this. We are getting the data, and then we are loading the data as well. We are storing all the blog posts into the post variable. And then now here comes the main part. Now we are going to check if it is the valid post ID or not. So how are we going to check the valid post ID? We are just going to check if it is in the range. So let's say we have total six posts. So we are only going to have post ID from 1 to 6 or maybe 0 to 6, right? So it is not going to be greater than 6. So we just have to check if it is coming into that range or not. So we will just do this post ID length posts, and then inside that if statement. Once we have that, we are just going to we will just go to that index and then we will update that data. Okay. And then one more time, we are just going to save our blog post using this. And then we are just going to return JSONify data 200. And if it is not true, we're just going to return 404 code. This. Okay. Mhm. Yeah. Just fix the indentation. So this was a block pp.route this was a update route. Now let's go to the delete a delete route. So just going over it again. If the post ID is not valid, it is going to return error message with HTTP status code of 404 not found. So let's say if there are 7 blog posts and I'm entering 8 as a post ID, then it is just going to return error in that not found. Uh, right. So one more thing, blog pp dot route. Then one more time, same thing. Okay, I think I can just copy it from here because delete is going to have similar kind of structure. The only thing it is going to differ is that the only thing that is going to differ is instead of put, I'm going to write delete. Okay, and I think there are lots of things that we can copy. So instead of update, so let's copy this as well. Uh, Instead of update post, just give it a name delete post. Again, it is going to have the same thing because we also need post ID to determine which post we want to delete. And then again, we will have to load all blog posts. Okay, we are not going to retrieve this time because this is just deleting. So we are not going to get any input from our clients. So again, let's just check first if it is in the valid scheme of things in terms of index. If so, what are we going to do? I am just going to store our delete posts.pop, and that is going to be like something like this. Okay. Pop is basically the thing that deletes. It's just the by default function that Flask provides. If we'll do this, it is just going to delete the particular element or particular data in that particular index on that particular index. And then again, we are going to save the blog post from here. So I think we are just going to copy this right here. And instead of data, it would just be deleted post. Okay. Sorry, deleted post. Yeah. And then again, if it is not true, just return that it is not appropriate and we need to do something about it. Okay. Yeah. So this was everything for our routes. I have implemented all of the routes now: post, get, update, and delete. So now we will see what we are going to do in app.py. There is nothing fancy here in app.py. It's just going to be few lines of code. So let's see what are we going to have in our app.py. Again, so we are just going to have Flask here. Again, from Flask import, sorry, Flask import Flask, and then from blog import blog BP. Perfect. Okay. So app is equals to Flask name, and then app dot register. We will need to register the blueprint. So that can be done by this. We just have one blueprint for now. So we are going to name it as a blog BP. Sorry, we have already named it as a blog BP. And then URL prefix, it's up to us, whatever you want to keep. I want to have, I actually would prefer to have API prefix with my route. And then if name is equals to main, then app.run debug is equals to true. And this T is going to be capital T. Perfect. Yeah. So let me just save it and then let me try running it and see if I'm having any problem with it. Yep. So I'm getting log from blog import blog pp. No module named as a blog. Okay. Let me see uh what is something which is going wrong. Okay, guys. So see, there was only one small mistake that I did here. That's why I was getting that's why I was throwing an error. I didn't mention from where this was coming from. So it should be written over here from routes.blog import and then blog underscore pp. And now if I try to run it, it should be able to run fine. I just checked it. So let me just do it again. Python app.py. So if you can see that it's up and running on this URL. Now we will have to make a note of few things here. We we have defined a prefix for our URL or of our URL. So our URL will look like something like this: 127.0.0.1 5000 API, and then okay, it should be like this. And then because we just defined a prefix for our URL, that is API. Okay, so now let me go to the Postman and then we can see probably if it is working fine or not. Okay, so that is my Postman. If you can see it on my screen, I've already pasted my URL over here. So first of all, we are doing post request. Post request is to make sure that we already have some data and then we can do a get request on it and then we can check if it's there or not. So I have already added this. Now let me go and add one more thing. My second post, and then it will be just this is the content for my second post, and I'll make myself an author here. So I'll just write the image. Okay. Okay. And then when you click here on the right hand side, you should just make sure that for this case that it's clicked on the JSON. It is enabled for the JSON. Then when I'll click on this, you should be able to get the status 201 created. Uh, so that means post route is working perfectly fine. Now let's see. So we have created two posts so far. So let's see if we are able to see it on our on when we do the get request or not. Okay, so if I click on get and then if I click on send, so if you can see that I have already two JSON data packets inserted over here, which is first for the John Doe and then the second for myself, Vignesh. Okay, so now let's go ahead and let's do the update. Okay, so that is going to be put and then post. So after that, we need to ensure that we add post number, post ID in our arguments. So let's say my post ID was 1, of course, right? So put, and instead of Jignesh Patel, I just want to write it Dinesh. So now if I send it, it is sending me 200 OK. So that means it is updated correctly. So now if I go and do the get on it, we should be if I do the get on it, we should be able to see the change if it was done successfully. Yeah, see, it's just signature and Patel is deleted already. So now let's try and do the delete. If I do the delete here, I'll just write one index number, and we don't need to add any of the bodies here. And then if I click on send, if I click on send, it will just show me. Okay, I think that is some mistake that I'm doing. Okay, guys. So see, there was only one small mistake that I did here. That's why I was getting that's why I was throwing an error. I didn't mention from where this was coming from. So it should be written over here from routes.blog import and then blog underscore bp. And now if I try to run it, it should be able to run fine. I just checked it. So let me just do it again. Python app.py. So if you can see that it's up and running on this URL. Now we will have to make a note of few things here. We we have defined a prefix for our URL or of our URL. So our URL will look like something like this: 127.0.0.1 5000 API, and then okay, it should wait like this. And then because we just defined a prefix for our URL, that is API. Okay, so now let me go to the Postman, and then we can see probably if it is working fine or not. Okay, so that is my Postman. If you can see it on my screen, I've already pasted my URL over here. So first of all, we are doing post request. Post request is to make sure that we already have some data, and then we can do a get request on it, and then we can check if it's there or not. So I have already added this. Now let me go and add one more thing. My second post, and then it will be just this is the content for my second post, and I'll make myself an author here. So I'll just write the grade. Okay. Okay. And then when you click here on the right hand side, you should just make sure that for this case that it's clicked on the JSON. It is enabled for the JSON. Then when I'll click on this, you should be able to get the status 201 created. So that means post route is working perfectly fine. Now let's see. So we have created two posts so far. So let's see if we are able to see it on our on when we do the get request or not. Okay. So if I click on get and then if I click on send, so if you can see that I have already two JSON data packets inserted over here, which is first for the John Doe and then the second for myself, Vignesh. Okay. So now let's go ahead and let's do the update. Okay, so that is going to be put and then post. So after that, we need to ensure that we add post number, post ID in our arguments. So let's say my post ID was 1, of course, right? So put, and instead of Jignesh Patel, I just want to write it Dinesh. So now if I send it, it is sending me 200 OK. So that means it is updated correctly. So now if I go and do the get on it, we should be if I do the get on it, we should be able to see the change if it was done successfully. Yeah, see, it's just signature and Patel is deleted already. So now let's try and do the delete. If I do the delete here, I'll just write one index number, and we don't need to add any of the bodies here. And then if I click on send, if I click on send, it would just show me. Okay, I think that is some mistake that I'm doing. Okay, again, there was very silly mistake by me before. Previously, I was putting the space here between slash and zero. It was like this before. Now, if I keep this, it would be okay, and you can see that status it has returned status 200. And now, if I do get, and then if I see if there is any post, now see if you can see that the first post has already been deleted. So that's how you deal with the Flask routes, and that's how you implement it in the backend whenever you are trying to develop any web applications. So in real world, you're not going to do this. Yes, you're going to do it as for testing your routes, but if you're doing out in this real world and real applications, you'll have to build some web pages, HTML, lots of front end. You'll have to integrate those, but this is just the very basic thing that everybody should know, whoever is trying to get into the web development, full stack development, especially for the Python. So I hope you liked my video, and thank you so much for watching.